Can I tell you guys about the best day of my life? I was 8 years old and me and my dad went to a mall in Atlanta. We stopped at a food court, got some Chinese food, I tried sushi for the first time, I hated it, and then we went and saw Transformers Dark of the Moon in a theater that was attached to the mall. This was back in 2011 when malls used to do this. Now, a bit of context, I was unbelievably hyped for Transformers 3. I would watch the trailers that would come on TV every time they were on, and prior to us going to the mall, I even got a Transformers 3 Happy Meal. And then we both sat down for 2 hours and 37 minutes, and it quickly became one of my favorite movies of all time. Me and my dad then regrouped with my mom and sisters, and we left the mall while having more Asian food because I love Asian food, and I think I recall getting a few PS2 games as well that day. I just wanted to share this amazing memory with you guys since if I could relive any day of my life, this would be that day. And the fact that this memory is going to become a decade old later this year is insane. So, if you came here expecting a fair criticism of this movie, while I will point out flaws I noticed in my latest rewatch, I couldn't give this movie a bad rating if I wanted to. I'll still provide reasoning to my points like always, and this will be a normal review, but just know this is a review that's clouded by nothing but nostalgia. So, with that being said, let's talk about the conclusion to the original Michael Bay Transformers trilogy, Dark of the Moon. After the Autobots figure out a ship containing Optimus' mentor and predecessor, Sentinel Prime, has been on Earth's moon this entire time, they go to retrieve him and with the Matrix. Meanwhile, the Decepticons have been plotting a mysterious but undoubtedly sinister scheme, and we also follow Sam, now fresh out of college, trying to find a job. Now, the plot to this movie is definitely not a bad one. Seeing Sam go from a high school student to a college student to someone trying to find a job is a nice natural progression. And I like the addition of making Sentinel Prime Optimus' role model. It makes what happens later in the movie much more of an emotional blow, maybe not to the audience, but understandably to Optimus. Later in the movie, Sentinel Prime reveals he struck a deal with Megatron for the survival of Cybertron. Making Sentinel into a bad guy was a really cool move that took 8-year-old me completely by surprise. However, once the Decepticons begin their invasion in Chicago, I'm not even kidding, the movie just turns into a giant action blockbuster of nothing but destruction, action, and both major and minor Autobots and Decepticons dying, which is a perfect direction to go for in what was supposed to be the final installment in the series. Seriously, I was blown away when I watched this in theaters. This movie has some of the most insane action scenes I've ever seen. I mean, the budget was $98 million, so that's not all that surprising. But seriously, this movie turns into nothing but an action-packed marathon after the first 30 or 40 minutes. And like I said before, this movie has a high character death count. Ironhide, Soundwave, these two goofuses, Starscream, Megatron, Sentinel Prime, and this dude all perish in the movie. Going in, I wasn't expecting many deaths to take place, so huge casualties genuinely took me by surprise. Yeah, this movie is chaotic and a lot of fun, and its high-stakes action is perfect for a third movie in the trilogy. Now, as far as the characters are treated in this movie, same old, same old. You should know by now that the Cybertronian characters are mostly background and the human characters are the main focus. Now, even though my review of the first movie is only about 2 weeks old, I wish I could take back my complaint of a lack of focus on the Transformers. While I wish they got more screen time in the first movie, it wasn't until the third movie where I realized I honestly don't mind this direction. While most people were annoyed with the human characters in this trilogy, I honestly found them pretty enjoyable. And we actually get a nice character arc out of Sam in this movie. He starts out unsatisfied with his mundane life after all the epic stuff that happened in the first two movies, but by the end, he realizes all he wants is his girlfriend. Oh, I should probably mention that. Yeah, Mikaela from the last two movies makes no appearances in this one because behind the scenes, Megan Fox came out and compared Michael Bay to Hitler when it came to directing. That wasn't exactly a way to get a promotion, so Bay immediately fired her and got a new actress to play Sam's new girlfriend. While this is understandable, the way they talk about the character of Mikaela in this movie is kinda dumb. Apparently Mikaela dumped Sam, and Sam had a lot of problems with her because she was mean. Not only is this uncharacteristic of the two since the first two movies showed how much they cared about each other, but it's clear the stuff they say about her is Michael Bay letting his feelings out. But yeah, the characters in this movie are nice. Oh yeah, and the Transformers themselves get some spotlight too. The student-mentor relationship between Optimus and Sentinel is a great dynamic, Bumblebee is a lot of fun as always, and Megatron and Starscream are fun as well like they were in the last movie. Not only that, but this movie also introduces the idea of a rich jerk helping out the Decepticons for salvation, and that's a pretty cool concept. Yeah, I like the characters in Dark of the Moon, and I think they're fun and interesting to watch. Oh, and I guess I can go ahead and talk about the effects. Top of the line. Seriously, this movie has amazing effects and destruction. I mean, come on, $98 million. How can you possibly mess up with $98 million? Never mind. And since I've already talked about the action, I can go ahead and mention the memorable soundtrack. The main theme of this movie has always been engraved in my head for many years. Now, before I give my rating for this movie, let me get a little personal for a second. If you watched the top 5 Transformers movie list I made in 2018, you would have heard me say all of these movies suck. But from 2016 all the way to 2018, my opinions just could not be trusted. Why? Because most of the time, my opinions were always largely influenced by what online internet critics had to say. But now that I think independently, I can fully embrace my love for these movies. I love the Michael Bay Transformers trilogy. While it has its problems and it's understandable people who grew up with G1 would harbor poor feelings for these movies, what you have to understand is people my age grew up with this version of Transformers. All the games I put hours into, all the toys I would beg my parents for, everything Transformers to me spawned from these movies. And they left a monumental positive impact on my life. I love these movies. They may be garbage to some people's eyes, okay, most people's, but I have always enjoyed them and I will continue to do so. While 4, 5, and Bumblebee exist, this original trilogy is all I really need. I'll be covering the sequels, but this trilogy is Transformers. And I want to thank Michael Bay and all the talent that went into these movies, since they are and always will be so special to me. Does Transformers Dark of the Moon deserve a 5 out of 5? Of course not. At the end of the day, it's a silly, high-budget action blockbuster. But my score since 2019 reflects how I feel about something. It reflects what it means to me, not its objective quality. And with that being said, I'm giving Transformers Dark of the Moon a 5 out of 5. One of my favorite movies of all time. See you next week for Transformers 4 Age of Extinction. Thank you guys for watching.